The Battle of Britain is about to begin.
Deep right, we got extra up there. Let's follow a range on deep right. I'm doing out right on the target right now. I've got a couple of these right in front of me. I'm going out for it. Right, I got him.
Welcome back to the Lead Pursuit Podcast. We're going to pick up right where we left off with Phil Yates talking about Angels 1-6.
Going back to the turn, I'll hold this up, but I'll just talk through it. Basically, actually, I'm going to run through some of my standard spiel. The first thing is you've got three resources in the game. You've got height, and if you haven't seen this yet, this is one of the cool things of the game. You've got 5 height levels on this little stand, and it's a magnet, so you can do a diving turn or whatever you want. But you've got height shown there. You've got airspeed shown here, and you've got actions, which is your situational awareness. The more actions you get at the start of your turn, the wider awake your pilot is. And when you're down in this area here, your pilot is basically panicking, lost track of the entire fight, and doesn't even know which direction to go, so effectively doesn't go. It can be very disturbing to start a turn way down in this component, this area here.
Yes.
But anyway, so the turn sequence goes power. So if we were down at 2 here, power +3 on this aircraft, so we go up to, now I'm going to have to look over this edge, go up to 5. But if we're at 5, we wouldn't go all the way to 8, we'd stop at 7 because that's as fast as a spit can go. The only way to get into the red is dive, and if you dive, you lose speed instead of gaining speed at the start of the turn because you've pulled out to level and now you're coming back to your level maximum speed. So you're going to spend your airspeed and your actions, let's give us a decent number of actions, running across from left to right across this table. You can't go backwards, but you don't have to do anything except power and move. And I hope I'm pointing in roughly the right direction because I'm looking at the camera image. And so if I'm pointing at the wrong thing, it's because I'm trying to guess a little. But anyway, so power on this is +3. But since we're now at 7, doesn't improve our speed because it's as fast as we go. Then we get, as you talked before, an option to shoot. We'll come back to that. And then we come to brake. And that's your 45-degree turn before your move. So if we did a brake, that's 2 actions, 2 airspeed. And then we decide we're going to climb, which is 1 action, 3 airspeed. And then we get to move. And our airspeed indicator is how fast we're going. We are currently moving 2. 1, 2. But we're higher. If we didn't do that climb, we would have moved 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So physics. Unlike most aerial type war games, physics works. If you climb, you will slow down. If you dive, you will speed up. If you turn, you will slow down. Everything you do slows you down and uses situational awareness. So we run across, we've got shoot, brake, and back to your point, I'll just grab a base here. There's a little red line pointing straight ahead on that little aircraft there. That's the shooting line. If the target isn't on that line, they're not going to get shot at. But brake is where you get your arc of fire because brake is allowing you to do a 45-degree turn either way. So effectively, in a sense, you do have a 90-degree arc of fire like you have most games, but you have to do it by changing the direction your aircraft is pointing with the resulting loss of speed and situational awareness. And now you're pointing in that direction. You can't just keep traveling in this direction while shooting over there. You've got to turn to shoot them. Basic physics. Split S, which we'll ignore because, as I said, it's a sometimes happens in combat, but usually it's a repositioning maneuver. And then we've got shoot again. So if I was pointing, and I'm going to use a hand and a spit, if I was pointing at the spit at the start of the turn, then I can shoot at the beginning of the turn, not do a break, not do a split S, and shoot again. And that usually only happens with bombers because I go, you go. This guy positioned himself here. Not a very clever maneuver.
Yeah.
You don't tend to do that more than once. So normally you find yourself pointing, and now we'll use a measurement, pointing here, do your break, and now you've got a target. And in this case, in a very convenient place, we were on his tail, and then you do your move and so forth. Then after move, which is compulsory, costs nothing, you aeroplane, you can't not move. Whatever's left on your list when you hit move is how fast you move.
Yep.
If you don't want to move that fast, then you better do some maneuvers to lose speed. There is something you can do. If you want to throw away an action, you can burn 1 or 2 speed, which is very rare because speed is life. And you really don't want to burn speed, but sometimes you don't want to climb, you don't want to maneuver, but you do want to stay behind them, and you'll, pull the throttle back a bit or drop flaps or weave or something to lose a bit of speed to stay behind them. Of course, you'll pay for that next turn because you're coming into the next turn with less speed and you've only got so much power. Yeah. But sometimes it's still, at least for the moment, the best thing to do. Then we get to turn, as I said, turn 1, 2, 3, and a woman. And that's at the end of your movement, you're now doing that long sweeping turn, which is more of something a 0 would do, whereas a 190, for instance, is going to be doing this break and then either making use of that or going for 3D maneuvers or doing the long dive, get some speed up, and then pull hard round or whatever. And then we've got another shoot option. So the best way to take a bomber is sit behind it, go shoot, shoot, move, shoot. If a fighter lets
try
you
not
do
to
that,
overshoot.
If a fighter lets you do that, well, that's really generous of them. Excuse me for a moment.
Exactly.
But it has happened. Hopefully their buddy is there to gain revenge for their sacrifice.
Yeah.
So that's the structure of the turn, is basically a series of individual decisions which add up to effectively any sensible maneuver that you can do. So rather than having a million different maneuvers, I'm going to pull a yo-yo or whatever, you just have these components, you have to do them in order, and the result is that people who've never flown a plane, never thought about dogfighting and so forth, discover things like yo-yos and scissors and so forth. I had a game where 2 players were playing. First game, neither of them wargamers or aerial gamers, they were board gamers because it was at a board game convention. And they ended up with, this guy was sitting here and he was like, I'm going to end up here. What do I do? I'm going to break across, go here, and then turn back again so that now he's in the same position. He was like, okay. And they started basically doing a scissors until one guy
have a flat scissors maneuver,
like, okay, I'm going to try something different, and basically broke out of the scissors. And the other guy was like, gotcha.
Yeah, thanks. I'll follow you now. I'll follow you down and shoot you on that. Yeah.
And seen people pulling yo-yos and things like that as well. And again, it's just something that evolves from I've got this very simple set of components I can put together for my turn. I don't want to do this. I want to achieve this. Oh, I do this, this, and this. So for people used to things like, okay, I've got this long list of maneuvers and I'm picking one of them, it's sort of a bit different. But it just naturally evolves, that long list of maneuvers. So, And
I think that's one of the strengths, is that you don't have to think, I am going to do a maneuver 5, or I'm going to do a low yo-yo. It's, you get yourself to that point by stepping through the break, through the maneuver, through the climb maneuver, a climb move, and then your final turn. The one thing that in my brain I've been trying to work through, and it's going to force me to just have to sit down and play multiple rounds of the game, but trying the whole lateral displacement piece, because like you talk about, where you end up with someone in a scissors, how do you sit there and say, okay, I need to keep enough energy to laterally displace, but still have enough energy to point back and threaten him? Because if I just put myself out here, 4 moves away from him, that's great. He's not going to do a break turn. burn all of his energy short turn and then turn in and take a deflection shot on me. So, yeah.
Unlike a lot of modern aircraft of the period really can't do sustained maneuvers. So
exactly.
You've got 3 airspeed. If you're down at stall here, you start your turn at 2, you go up to 5. Yeah, hey, you got it right. You go up to 5 because you've got +3 power, and then you're highly likely, if you're in a dogfight, to end your turn back at stall speed, and you get 3. And so you're only going whoop, 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 and that's all you can do. And that requires basically one of your wingmen or something to come in and say, get off his tail, give him time to get that airspeed back up where he's got full maneuverability again. So one-on-one dogfights do tend to be rather slow and boring, or not slow, but rather ineffectual in the game because you rapidly end up maneuvering hard at stall speed. And I mean, I've seen people manage to take advantage of a minor opponent's mistake and get into a successful shot. But 2 good pilots flying near stall speed are going to end up doing relatively little maneuvering because there's just not much the plane can do, the whole physics of it. Now, if you've got something that's got a lot of power, like the 0 goes from 1 to 6 in a turn, its top speed is 6. So every turn it starts, because it's got a superb climb rate, power to weight ratio, and so forth, not because it's got a powerful engine, but because it's so light.
It's a light airplane. When it's made of cloth and wood,
Yeah, every turn it's going to be maneuvering hard. And you get into a flat fight with a 0, and you're going to be in a problem because you're going to be going 2, 5, 2, 5, 2, 5. It's going to get burned from 6 all the way down to 1, and then start at 6 and burn all the way down to 1. Nothing can keep up with that. So you've got to go, okay, we've got to get clever here. And it's interesting, testing at one point, it was like, okay, back weave, how does that work? The Wildcat, compared with a 0, has got so many problems. It's underpowered. Its maneuverability is horrible. But it's tough. It's got big 50 cals and so forth, but it's going to be hard to get the shots. And the experiment showed that, well, 0s don't want to do head-on passes. If you can get a 0 to do a head-on pass, that's good because although it's got its 20 mil cannon, you'll probably shrug that off if they do manage to get the hit. Whereas they're in trouble if you get those 650 cals in.
Oh, yeah.
And so if you can get any situation other than a 0 on your tail, you can, give it a bit of a fright. And then, so we tried setting 0s up behind Wildcats, and the Wildcats just did the back weave. So every turn it was just break, cross, and then break, cross, break, cross. And a pair of Wildcats could keep a pair of 0s entertained for as long as they liked. The 0s just couldn't really do anything about that because they can't brake to follow. And so they're pulling longer turns around. And by the time they get there, the Wildcat so they pulled this long turn around, and the Wildcat just goes, fine, we're going this way. And the 0's coming around, we're going this way. I
remind people that the purpose of the weave, it's kind of like an aerial phalanx. It's so that at any given point, there's a fighter within 45 degrees of turning on you.
Yeah.
And so it's not to necessarily engage the other guy, but it's to make that 0 say, no, I don't want anything of this Wildcat that's about to point at me, and then burn energy to either turn inside of him to deny him the shot or to just overshoot, which is great because then if they overshoot, your buddy goes, oh, good, now I'm going to reverse. And now I'm in a position where I can do something about it.
Yeah. And so this is where the 4 aircraft aside type thing comes in because, I mean, if you're dumb enough to let both of your pairs get into a back weave, you're just going to head for the edge of the table and go, fine, we've lost this one. Take the bombers, we're gone. Or at least just keep flying around long enough that the bombers fly out and you don't go after them. But if your buddies can turn around and come after you, now the 0s have got a problem of the 2 weaving aircraft are constantly trying to pose a threat. They can't on their own, but as soon as they've got somebody else there, the Zeros now have to go, okay, fine, we are just going to go vertical, climb high and hard, get out of this fight, and try and start another turn fight. And of course, the American pilots then go, fine, we'll dodge those ones as well.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
So you end up with very disparate tactics happening when you've got aircraft as disparate as that.
So the thing I want to try is, because you alluded to, you said 1v1s are very boring, that everyone makes these maneuvers, they bleed down to minimum maneuvering speed, and there's nothing conclusive. Most people think that 1v1 dogfights are something like top. No, most times you fly 1v1s, you end up descending down to whatever your minimum altitude is, and everybody's stabilized in that fight. And if somebody didn't start offensive or defensive, then everybody's neutral. That's how 1v1 maneuvering goes, especially in similar aircraft. So I'll be curious to play it, because I think one of the arguments I've always had against a lot of dogfighting games is the real dogfighting tactic is multi-plane engaged maneuvering. It's how do you set up the guy that I'm engaged with to be shot by my wingman while not getting my wingman shot by the other guys that are out there. And that complexity, because a lot of games, I think in aerial wargaming, we inherited naval wargaming's pre-plotted moves, or a lot of these different mechanics to make things surprising. But really the surprising part isn't in, I didn't know what that guy is going to do. It's going to be, he slips up just a very little bit, and can I exploit that? Small tactical distance mistake, or they didn't turn enough degrees. It's a fascinating look at how you do shooting, and we'll talk about that here right now. But because you really constrain the arc, you make it a much more precise maneuvering game, instead of, I'll just get close, shoot at one guy, turn around the other way, shoot at some other guys. Yeah,
and part of that is also the actions thing, which we haven't talked about. So,
right.
Start of every turn, you get 2 actions, roll 3 dice. If you're not playing a campaign, it's 4, 5, or 6, 50-50 on each dice, and you end up with somewhere between 2 and 5 actions. If you're ending up at 2 actions, and in a 1 versus 1 dogfight, that's the point at which you've lost track of where the other guy went. Oh, God, he's behind me and under me somewhere, and you're going, and make mistakes. A forced mistake in the terms of the player, because your pilot isn't as aware as you'd like him to be. You've got that overall view, and you can see, you need to do this, this, and this. And your pilot's going, yeah, but left or right? Quick, tell me. Whereas if you're up in the 5, it's like, yeah, there's a guy there, and I'm going to do this and get that guy. And so that is often what ends or changes a 1 versus 1 dogfight, is when one of the pilots ends up with no actions, or very few actions, and has to make a desperate decision. Like you're in a scissors, and it's like, okay, the best I can do at this point is brake and cross and not turn back in an S. I'm just going to be heading off in the wrong direction. And then the other pilot goes, right, that's actually really good. I'm now going to do your lateral separation thing. I'm not going to brake after you. I'm going to move sideways and then do a turn. And now I'm starting my turn behind you. I've got lateral separation, and I've changed the situation. It may not be game ending, but it certainly means that the pilot that mucked up, or the pilot that had limited actions and limited choices, now has to really pull it out of the bag to get ahead again. Of course, the opponent might go, well, hang on, hang on, there's someone behind me or something, and lose track of the fight, and you reverse it. Or you might just be able to pull a clever maneuver that your opponent wasn't thinking about. It's like, but you didn't notice I've got slight angle here. I'm actually going to break across you, give you a high deflection shot, take the high deflection shot, and that will sort of reverse the situation. Or you can not take the high deflection shot and try and follow me, but now the positions are better and so forth. So, it's very much about that sort of thing. And while we're talking about that shooting, one of the side effects of being shot, apart from getting shot down, is you can start your turn by losing actions. So pumping bullets into somebody is one way of freaking them out and reducing their responsiveness in the following turns. So if you've got somebody on your tail, you really, really, really need your wingman to come and say, get off his tail so he's got a moment to catch his breath, get back in the game, and get some airspeed up again.
Let's talk about that economy a little bit, because, and it's part of the whole discussion about shooting, but the actions minus fright economy is important, because there is an ability to burn down that negative impact, but it takes time. And then there's a threshold where once you're over 5, you're just working your way in a bad way to being out of the game. And if you can't get rid of that, your pilot breaks runs, which I think is good. That we've had a discussion previously on the podcast about morale in aerial war games, and the problem is most games go to people being shot down and not disengaging. And while there's a mechanic in here that I can try to maneuver and try to run away and maybe get out of here, so many people just disengaged from fights, even modern aviation, because it's just not advantageous to hang around. You look at the stroke flight in Desert Storm, and there's a point where you're going to do your level best to get out of the target area, but there's so many SAMs being shot. All you're doing is disengaging. You're not looking at the target. You're not thinking about anything else. You are flying out of this engagement. Your intent is to leave. People are taking shots at you, but there's no intent to go back that way. We'll be back tomorrow with more guys and more bombs, but we're not going that way. So that's one of the things. Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about shooting a little bit, because I think that's the interesting part, is that it is weapon based, and there is dice chucking in that sense, that you're shooting based on the number of cannons that are engaging there. So like you bring up in the sample part of the game, 8 303 Brownings, while not super damaging, that is 8 dice that you're rolling. So
right up there. It's got 8 303 Brownings, rolls 8 dice. Oh, and while we're at it, here's the dice, and I love the where's the camera? It's up there. Yeah. The 6 has a Messerschmitt in the sights. The German 6 has a Spit in the sights.
I like that. We were laughing about one of our pet rocks, custom dice, and I'm like, oh God, he went down the custom dice rule. I'm like, but they're so nice. They're so cool looking. But
that D6 are not custom dice, and funny
custom looking dice, I should say. Yeah, they're not required.
They're just pretty dice rather than the whole, I've got 4 hit symbols, 2 shield symbols, whatever symbol, blah blah blah. They're just basic D6. Although
they do look good.
Talking about fright, a new concept that I hadn't come across until recently is a countdown dice. Now, magic users and so forth use a D20 countdown dice, but this is a D6 countdown dice. 1, 2, no, wrong direction. 3, 4, 5, and then throw that one away. 6. And that makes it much easier, because a normal D6, you're sort of trying to find the next number. So these ones are countdown dice, part of trying to make everything simple. So while we're talking about weapons, here's the opposite side of things. 109 has got 2 big cannon and 2 machine guns, so it's going to roll. Can we get them here somewhere? 2 big dice.
And 2 little dice.
And 2 little dice. It hasn't got as many dice rolling, so it's not going to score as many hits. But then, whereas the 303s are the same as the 792s with a firepower of 6, that means you've got to roll a 6 to sort of seal the deal. If you get a hit with a cannon, that's 4+. So 50-50. A bit scary when your opponent does actually get that hit with the cannon, and you fail your save, and you go, please roll 1 or 2 or 3.
So I have to laugh, because and you undoubtedly have not heard this episode of the podcast, but I will really retell the story here for your benefit, that as soon as I was going through the rules again and looking at all that, and the fact that you referred to it as a save, you didn't even call it a defense or anything. You're like, look, you got to save against this. I had a flashback to Historicon in Lancaster, Pennsylvania last year, where, standard Mark 1 Mod Zero Grognard walks past, sees the little airplanes out on the table, looks at me and goes, this game have a saving throw? And we were playing Blood Red Skies and Beyond Big Alley at the time. And I look at him kind of quizzically like, that's a kind of interesting start into this is a game with airplanes. And I go, yeah, we call it a dodge, but it's the same thing. It's a defense, it's a saving throw. And then without missing a beat, looks and goes, oh, that's a sign of a lazy designer. Any other designer should already have that built into the odds table, and walks off and literally walks away. And I'm just like, I think I've been insulted. I don't know. It's not even really my game. I'm like, this is Andy Chambers' Blood Red Skies with some mods to it. I'm like, whatever. But as soon as I saw you call it a save, I knew I was going to tell that story again on the podcast.
I used to call it airframe strength, but I just changed it to airframe save. Because
it's standard term. It's what everyone knows. Yeah. So as soon as I saw that, I laughed. But I like that because you have each of the aircraft rolling for their capability, their number of weapons, their weapons capability with that firepower, and then you take your airframe save based on what kind of aircraft you are and that aircraft structural integrity, and that's still not the end of the story. So you now have fright that gets added in there for those successful hits. And then there's, okay, is there a firepower? Has my firepower shot me down? And what does this mean over time? That sure, guys can shoot 303s at me all day, but that might be running my fright up to the point where I'm out of this. You haven't shot me down. I'm done with fighting this fight today.
Yep. So, and no, I'm going to jump around for a moment, but we'll come back to what I was going to say. The other part, and I might take the aircraft off here, you might be able to see on the base, is that the hit number varies by angle.
Varies for the arc.
So if I am coming at this bit from the tail, I'm hitting on 3+. If I'm doing a head-on pass, I'm hitting on 4+. And the deflection shot where you're trying to fire your bullets here and hope the plane flies into them is 5+. So your score to hit is basically what angle you're engaging the plane from your, there's a technical term for it. It's about angles off and so forth, but I can't remember.
Exactly.
But it doesn't really matter.
So, yeah, exactly.
So if you can get your plane in behind your opponent's plane, you're hitting on 3s, which is great. If you know you're going to get shot, then the best thing to do is try and do a high deflection shot and say, fine, shoot at me, but you're going to miss. And then there's three modifiers to that. The first one is height. Every height difference between you, whether it's up or down, is +1. Right. So don't get too fussed about that. It's like, your 3 height difference, that's +3. That's going to be a 6 to hit. And then the second one is just the ruler. There's 3 brackets on here, +0, +1, +2. So you've got that deflection shot at 2 height difference, and in the range +1 bracket, that's 6. That's 8s, in fact, isn't it? It's not going to happen. You want a deflection shot, you need to be ideally in the +0 bracket with 1 height difference at worst, or in the +1 bracket with no height difference. So very hard to do. On the other hand, a tail shot, you can do a tail shot with 3 height difference without any problem, or 2 height difference in some range, or 1 height difference in long range, or whatever. But the other modifier is on the weapons. Now, if we look at the spit, it's got 2 hit, nothing. That's pretty standard. But, wing-mounted machine guns, 303s, pretty average. We look at the 109, and we see that the cannon have +1. So they're hard to hit with. That's +1 to the score required to hit. So that 3+ becomes a 4+ because you've only got 60 rounds. You're slow firing, low muzzle velocity cannon. If you score a hit, it's going to be very nice, but it's hard to score a hit. So don't worry. People ask, but what about ammunition and so forth? It's like, that's the pilot's problem. The +1 represents the pilot either going, are you crazy? I've only got 30 rounds left. I'm not going to
I'm
push
not
the
going to
button
shoot
right now. Or going, wow, actually this moment, and you roll a 6 and he pushes the button at the right time and so forth. It's really hard to hit with the cannon because you've got 60 rounds and low muzzle velocity ones. On the other hand, their machine guns are -1 because you've got 1,000 rounds per gun synchronized through the propeller, firing along the line of the flight, blah, 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 really easy to hit with. So you end up with the British doing their whole spray and pray, 8 dice, evens, let's see if we can hit something. The Germans have got their sniping machine guns, which are easy to hit with, but still only firepower 6 in a pair of them, and their cannon, which they're just hoping some point in the game to get those cannon lined up and get that hit, because that's 50-50 basically. That's the end of the thing. And if you make that firepower test, that is it. That target aircraft is out of the fight. If you don't make the firepower test, it's still in the fight. How I look at it is basically that no sane pilot is going to fly a damaged aircraft in combat. Now, the definition of sane and damaged varies between pilots.
Yes.
But if your pilot considers his aircraft still capable of remaining in the fight, then it doesn't matter what you did to him. It hasn't made any difference. You've put some fright on it, which may cost him some actions, whether that be because there are physical problems with his plane or because you freaked him out. You roll the dice for every fright marker at the beginning of the turn. Every one that you don't make a successful bravery test a thing for costs you an action, test for. But if you roll that firepower, then the opponent's aircraft is no longer in the fight. There's no hit points or anything like that. It's just yes or no. Now, if you're interested or playing a campaign, there is a lovely table that tells you what actually happened, ranging from mid-air explosion. Yep, that's over for that aircraft and pilot. You got them fair and square, through to hit the silk. They bail out and parachute and land wherever they are. If they're over home territory, no problem, plane's gone, pilot's still going. If they're over foreign territory, well, that's probably not going to be such a successful mission for them. In the drink, because, of course, this is Battle of Britain, and you've got to get back across the channel, and surprisingly, the number of British pilots who ended up in the drink as well, either because they were chasing somebody across at the end of the fight still going, and it's drifting slowly further and further towards France, and then they're like, actually, I've got to get home now. And through to, if you roll particularly well, the situation was lost. You actually avoided any serious harm to your pilot or your aircraft, but you lost track of the fight. And your opponent still claims a kill. I mean, a lot of engines at that time, you open the throttle, go into a dive and overspeed the engine, and clouds of black smoke like any old diesel or something.
Pouring out of it,
Pouring out of it. I look down and see this plane going down in flames, and everybody saw it going down in flames. That's a kill. The guy pulls out at low level and goes, where's the fight? And you hear accounts of people say, there were 80 aircraft around me, and I did a hard turn, and I couldn't figure out where the fight was anymore. So I went home. This is sort of that situation. Yep, the opponent gets to claim a kill and gets all the experience for a kill, and you fly home going, wow, that was close. In between, there's damaged or aircraft shot, wrecked, or pilots with various degrees of permanent or semi-permanent disadvantages, whether it be just for the next game or permanent loss of abilities and so forth. So, getting shot down doesn't mean your pilot is dead. It just means your pilot is out of the fight, or your aircraft is out of the fight, ranging from involuntarily out of the fight, ranging from, involuntarily out of the fight and out of this world to just, okay, well, I survived, and the fight's over. Oh, well, I'll head home. And
there's an interesting point there for games and as I call the generalization of aerial combat, because we talk about guys thought that they shot down the aircraft. Everyone saw it go down. The aircraft was actually perfectly fine once he pulled the throttle back and it was stopped pouring gasoline into a hot smoking engine. But he had to go home. But the point is, at least for me, in aerial combat games, I want there to be a logical attrition, not just be my number of airplanes, your number of airplanes. One side gets totally shot down, the other side still has 3 surviving. That doesn't build a narrative to it. It doesn't build a story, which, to be honest, whether you're playing competitively or not, you still want a little bit of story. You want to know, what happened here? Why did I make it out of there? So I always tell people, even if you're playing competitive kind of games, if a game system or a bolt onto that game system gives you an ability to resolve stuff after the fact, you might as well just roll it. You're not going to use it next round of the tournament.
People love the story.
You're kind of like, I wonder which of my guys made it. And you've done it in games like Aeronautica Imperialis, where it really hasn't mattered. But we're like, I want to know what happened to those poor NPC airplanes that we really didn't care about. We sacrificed them for the greater glory. But I want to roll their ejection modifiers because I wonder if those guys actually made it out or not. Or did they defend?
Yep. Absolutely.
So the narrative piece is always huge to me in a lot of these games, and I think I was reading somebody's discussion of early aerial war games, and that since sometimes they went too far, they went one way or the other. They were too far about the pilot and the narrative piece, or too much about the airplane and modeling the perfect physics of what that would do, a la Air War, and so that there was never a happy medium where you felt like, okay, physics does have a vote in what I'm doing, but it still is about the pilot and their narrative piece of it and their desire to stay in the fight or not. Because with the fright mechanic, I think it's a very cool way to have an economy that you want to ratchet up and down with your actions, your situational awareness input to that. You're rolling dice to hopefully bump your SA back up, but then there's also knocking those numbers back down.
Yeah, you start a turn with 5 fright. You've been hammered, and you're thinking, oh, this is going to go badly. And then you roll your 5 dice, and they come up, pass. Whoa, guy, go for it! Like, don't care.
He just shook it off at that point, and he's good.
Yeah. Okay, so some more holes. The fitter's going to be really annoyed when I get home, but she's still flying, nothing to worry about. I'm still flying, and I'm going to get that guy.
Well, and as you talked about, that is generalized in a lot of ways, that maybe there was aileron damage, and then as that next turn, we'll call it, the pilot realizes, let me just put in some trim. Okay, I can compensate for that. I can, even though the airplane is damaged, it isn't changing how I'm going to fly it because I'm going to put in some mechanical compensation. Or, okay, my engine is taking a hit. That's fine. I'm not just going to run it up all the way, but it is encompassed in their ability to do things.
For the moment. I can see glycol streaming out behind me, and it's going to blow up anytime, seize anytime soon, but I'm not ready to quit yet.
But in a sense, that's reflected by, sure, I've got my base actions, I've got my ability to get rid of fright, but maybe that fright isn't so much that I'm intimidated. I just can't run the engine up a lot, so I can't do a climb and a nimblement and all these things that'll burn up actions. Instead, I've got to concentrate on not overheating the engine with whatever one thing I want to do this turn.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I said, story is my overriding design thing. But then behind the story, I'm a mathematician by training and inclination. There's a hell of a lot of math going on behind it that you don't need to know about, that results in basically you can't help but have your plane fly like that type of plane compared with this type of plane. You can try and fly your Focke-Wulf 190 like a zero, but it won't work very well. And the physics will just do the physics things and so forth. So it's all constraints on your story rather than mechanisms that you have to know or learn. The mechanisms are simple. Most people, I would say well over half of the people, after a brief explanation, can play after a turn. And easily a quarter or a third of people are explaining to the slower ones how to play on their second turn. I have left people another bunch of people arrived at a demo. You guys are good? Yeah, we've played 2 turns. We've got it. And, every turn or so they'll ask a question. And other than that, they're just going for it. Occasionally it was like, so hang on, can he shoot up at me while he's diving? No, he can't. Oh, well, I shouldn't have done that last turn. Oh, well.
Yeah, exactly. Moving on.
But given it's their first game and they've had, a brief explanation, it's pretty good as far as I'm concerned. So, yeah. Any other questions about it?
Well, I was going to say is, so let's segue from there into the part that I'm sure everybody's really also wanting. They're like, yeah, mechanics, whatever, cool, we'll play the game. In your last newsletter blog post, you showcased a lot of stuff out there. So you talked about some other aircraft and some other things while you were making your pitch for backers, for wing commander level kind of investors to say, hey, we're looking for white knights to come, help me take this to the next level before we go to Kickstarter. But let's talk about those other airplanes, because I think they look pretty cool. And I think the fact that you're working already on some of the designs, the stats, and the models, I think that's all pretty interesting.
Cool. I'll talk about the Wing Commanders Club in a little, if I may. But first of all, with this one almost ready for production, and one of my definite goals with this Kickstarter and why there's the Wing Commanders Club is that I don't want it to be one of those, oh, yeah, I backed it a couple of years ago. How's it going sort of thing. By the time it goes to Kickstarter, it will be a matter of the money arrives, I push the button, and head over to China to make sure everything's coming off the production line right. So that's not a cheap way of doing things. So hence we have the Wing Commander Club, which we'll come to again. But with Battle of Britain almost complete, just about to move into the marketing phase, we've still got a bit of work on the campaign side of things. Sculpting is one of the slowest parts of the whole process. So I've got people already sculpting for the next one on the assumption that we're going to get enough money from this Kickstarter that we can do the next one. And that's midway. So Wildcats, Zeros, Dauntless and Devastators and various Japanese equivalents, Kanbuku and Kanban, I think their terms are, which just means dive bomber and level bomber, or carrier diver and carrier.
Gates and gals, as we know them all. So yeah.
But anyway, but also hopefully a P-40E and a Oscar, the Kai 43 Hayabusa, so that we can look at areas like Guadalcanal and New Guinea and so forth. Or if you like, you can also, there's nothing to stop you from taking your Hurricanes against Zeros.
I was about to say, you'll have these lovely little Hurricanes that were in the newsletter that you can then play against Zeros.
So yes. Back to the Battle of Britain one. Yes, some of the expansions there'll be Hurricanes, there'll be 110 twin-engine, 110 German fighters. And in the campaign pack, you'll get cardboard bombers with stands that sort of slot together and then a flat bomber on top of it. So you can play the campaign games, escorting and trying to shoot down bombers. But there'll also be a bomber pack, which has got Heinkels and Hamptons and Stukers and so forth in it, so that you can have pretty targets to defend or shoot down. So there's all of those extras coming. But the campaign will be where, the aircraft will be different because the Zero, like the British left the Battle of Britain thinking, okay, we're turn and burn fighters. We turn, that's what we do sort of thing. And then they got to Malaya and it was like, hang on, this isn't working. Some clever guys came up with, I think we're actually zoom and boom fighters now.
Yeah, exactly. We should take the German tactics. It took them a long time to figure out
that they were not what they thought they were, and they kept trying to dogfight the Zeros. So the Zero is the ultimate dogfighter, but one of its weirdities is it only gets +1 power in a dive. So most aircraft get +2 power in a dive, whereas a Zero only gets +1. So it climbs well, but when you go down, you don't gain much speed. So losing height in a Zero doesn't gain you much, whereas the American fighters are pretty sort of heavy and they go down very nicely, whether they want to or not sometimes. But so they've got the abilities to dive away from a Zero to get separation. The American fighters, like a Wildcat, is actually remarkably like a Hurricane with more guns in terms of its performance. Its performance is mediocre in a dogfight. It's got a lot of firepower, good for bringing stuff down, but it's challenging to get on target. But once you get on target, it's in trouble. So different fighters, different things. And then you've got the P-40, which is a slightly higher performance, not being navalized. It's a slightly higher performance aircraft than the Wildcat because it doesn't have to carry all the naval weight and so forth. And then you've got the Oscar, which to some extent makes the Zero look clumsy. It is a massive dogfighter, but it's only got two 12.7 millimeter machine guns, and they're slow firing. So they're not actually very easy to hit with. So you're going round in circles and dodging everything and going, nyeh, nyeh, nyeh.
Well, I've always said that the hilarious part is when you have an Oscar against Wildcats, you have quite possibly the exact opposite ends of the spectrum, and the Wildcat will have to wait for the Oscar to blunder somewhere and just survive through this hail of ineffectual fire that is going to hit it. That the Wildcat, with a big radial engine, big, wings and heavy structural carrier capable structure, is probably going to shrug off all those hits unless you get lucky and hit the pilot.
Save. So
it's just going to
of everything that hits it. It just ignores. It doesn't care. The only thing,
look, there's a hole in the wing. There's a hole in the tail now. Big deal. Yeah.
Only thing particularly tougher that's commonly known would be the P-47 Thunderbolt.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a 3+ save. You really have to pump the stuff into that. Of course, by that time, you've got 109s with a 30 millimeter cannon with a 2+ firepower. Yes. So you fail that save after getting hit by a 30 millimeter, and it's like, you need that save. Whereas other aircraft are just trying to make sure they don't get hit by that 37 millimeter.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
30 millimeter, sorry. But anyway, So there's that. And for those who are more in the Flames War side, once Angels 1-6 is flying and away on its own to a certain extent, I do have a World War II skirmish game that I'm very keen to put out there, and Napoleonic.
Well, let's talk about that. Yeah, let's talk about that with the Wing Commander. I'll call it White Knight investor kind of piece, because you have said, hey, I'm looking for people who for the promise of getting all of the good things we're about to do are going to help us have the money up front. And so tell us a little bit about the Wing Commander.
For free forever.
Yeah, exactly. I saw that. I'm like, oh my God, do I have that kind of money? I'm like, no, I don't. But that sounds really good.
Yeah, basically the deal is you join the Wing Commanders Club and you get one of everything for free forever. But you pay up front. It's 5,000 New Zealand dollars, which is only about 2 nearly 3,000 US. But that's basically to allow me to do things like having a good trailer video and spending money on advertising and so forth. Because the way Kickstarters work these days is if you don't hit it hard and successful, then it's very hard to scale afterwards. So I'm trying to make sure this comes out with a boom and has enough money left over to get that midway one going. And as you saw that list there's what comes after that. One option is Germany 1945 with all of the jets and super props. Another option is go to the Soviet Union and get the Lavochkins and Yaks and so forth against the next generation, or Masters of the Year type thing where you've got the relatively early escorts trying to keep the Germans off their bombers and things. So a lot of stuff. Even the game will work really well in Korea, or even the Indian-Pakistan.
I jumped to the end and I was like, ooh, Sabres MiGs. Let me ignore all this stuff here and go to Sabres MiGs.
Yep. They're still basically using machine guns and cannon, dogfighting. Yep, they're moving faster, but it's essentially the same thing. Their energy availability is higher, but their energy cost to do stuff is higher. So the game is different, but the same. Just the same as playing with 45 aircraft is going to be a very different game from playing with Spits and Messerschmitts, which is a very different game from playing with Wildcats and Zeros. So everything's the same. You don't have to learn anything, but you're going to be flying aircraft with extremely different performance envelopes that you'll learn to sort of exploit. There's going to be the gamers who are going to look at the cockpit and go, right, I know that. And then there's going to be the gamers who are going to have to learn by experience, just like the real pilots. It's like some of them are like, oh, yeah, I've figured out this plane. I've flown it for 10 hours. I've got it worked out. The intuitive guys. And then there's going to be the pilot who's gone through his training and so forth, and in his first dogfight and goes, okay, I was told I could do this. That didn't work. Oh, but this did.
Well, I think that's the interesting part, and really frustrating for me to wrap my brain around without having played it. But as you go to follow on aircraft, you're still not really changing your actions economy, but you're dramatically changing the power, speed, maneuver economy. But if you lose track of your actions economy, you're not going to do any of these cool things because you're going to get stuck in only being able to do the automatic stuff. And so I just have this moment where I'm like, I'm thinking and I'm like, okay, I have to, whenever I look at the performance chart on the diagram, I have to also go, yeah, but what if I don't roll well and don't get rid of fear and don't have any extra actions and all I have is two baseline actions? And so that's my baseline day. And then what if I can only do automatic things? Ooh, okay, there we go. So that's interesting.
And so yes, you've got the physical capability of the aircraft, and then you've got the situational capability of the pilot. And the interaction of the two is where the game lies, basically. Yeah. If you want to join the Wing Commander Club, just go to the website, angels16.com, either angels digit 1 digit 6 or angelsonexix.com. And if you go to the blog thing there's the latest Dispatches 10, which talks all about it and tells you how it's going to work and so forth. Go in there one of everything forever, which is a good deal, I think. But I need the money now to get to forever. So, I'm looking for people who have the vision to go, yeah, actually, I like the games Phil does. I like this game. I can see that I'm going to really quickly recoup my investment and go on from there. So, back to you were asking about, currently it's got the draft title H Hour. So once again, in my style, it's about story and what actually happened. So you get a lot of games where things are either fairly random or you get way too much command control detail. But when you get and read accounts of small-scale actions, it's all, and studies have shown this time and time again, it's all about the leaders. Your officers, your experienced sergeants, occasionally corporals, lance corporals, and very, very rarely the privates who are doing something spectacular. So the turn structure in this one is unusual in that you have 3 actions in your turn. You pick 3 individuals, one after the other, and you do something with them and the people around them if they've got the ability to lead the people around them. Now, the tricky part is that if your opponent spots you doing something, they can try and steal your activation. So my first activation, that tiger in the middle of the field is going to take a pot shot at your tank. Oh, guess what? I saw that happening. Your turn's over. Whereas on the other hand, it's like, okay, the guys running around the back of the wood are going to run flat out around the back of the wood. Did you see that? Nope. Cool. Second action, actually, they're now going to run to the front of the wood and set up a fire position there. Did you see that? Probably not. And my third action is the tiger is going to take a pot shot at your tank, because I really want to get rid of that tank. But while I'm doing that, I'm doing some clever stuff. Of course, I might not get the tiger shot because your officer goes, hang on, I can see something. Oh, there's people in the wood.
Yeah.
And takes their action, and you lose the last one. And that combined with trying to have an interesting level of detail, but at the same time, not too much record keeping. So when you get shot, what happens is you go down, and a dice recording what happened to you goes with you. Now, nobody, not you, not your opponent, knows what happened until somebody goes and has a look. Now, you can activate the sergeant that's with them and go, okay, yep, we activated the sergeant, and oh, this guy's fine, this guy's fine. Ooh, that guy's not, and that guy's not. And the sergeant can go, okay, no problem. Or you could activate the sergeant and go, look, just don't look, keep running.
Yeah, exactly. Don't worry about those guys. We'll leave them there. We'll figure it out later.
Yeah. And if they are left out of command, then they just vanish. Your average dude, when they don't have any commanders looking at them, tends to just go, fine, I'm safe here. Or, that hurt. I think I'm going to go back and check with the doctor that I'm okay. Or maybe they're not even okay. But nobody who's got the capability of making decisions has bothered looking. So you just left those three guys behind, and it's like, okay, no problem, keep going. We'll hope the remaining guys keep going.
Well, I think there's an interesting interaction there, and we'll have to great discussion for offline for some other time.
Yeah.
But that same walk yesterday, I was musing over activations and activation bids and the interaction of, in aviation, situational awareness with that. So the higher your situational awareness, the more you can bid for things, or more you can say, I want to do. But one of the things that I laughingly came across thinking through that was letting people bid up to their situational awareness. Like, let's say you have an SA of 3. I can bid to do 3 activations, but reaching in the bag and drawing 3 random activations. And it might be that while I had high SA, the enemy also had high SA and saw that as I broke into them. Oh, good, they're breaking into us. We're going to break back. And so, having the ability to take risks and having game systems that allow you to take risk and say, all right, I want to push my luck. What is the effect of that? And that traditionally, war games don't do that. That's a very board game-ish thing of pushing your luck, and what's the opponent's ability when you push your luck, or the engine's ability to react to that. And I think that's something that hopefully more war game designers are going to add in, the mechanic to say, absolutely, I want to do things that I think are safe, but when I commit to doing something risky, there has to be a cost or a chance that won't play out the way I want. Because we tend to play war games with perfect command and control, perfect command SA. I know where everybody is. I'm going to choose to run my squad around, to that objective, knowing they can't shoot me because they're looking that way. Well, real life, what if their sergeant on the end of the line is looking that way and goes, "There's a squad of Americans running through the open. Let's shoot at those guys."
Yeah. And the other thing that I think a lot of surface games fail is not enough speed of movement.
Mm-hmm.
As one of the things in Flames of War was like, the question wasn't how fast can we make things move. It was when do we get things moving too fast? So, and again, it's a similar question to the same with the aircraft of, when does it get to the point where I've gone beyond the point where my opponent should have reacted by now?
Right.
But having that really fast movement means that you can do things like having your T-34s do a cross-country dash from over here to the other side of the table, pretty much, and your opponent either was thinking, those T-34s might be coming pretty soon, and I better do something about it, or your opponent was busy focusing on what they were doing over here, and now they're like, wow, where did they come from? Whereas if you go back to 70s and so forth, where things moved 4 inches, everything was inches, of course, and it's like, okay, I'm going to do this really clever maneuver, particularly in something like, say, a Napoleonic game or something, where I'm going to launch an offensive on this flank, except it's going to take me 6 turns, by which time the opponent's other flank will have turned and moved 5 turns towards me. Whereas it should be, I'm going to launch an assault on this flank. I've prepared the assault, obviously, like you see something starting to go there, they're halfway across the table. What are you going to do? Because next turn, they're going to hit you. You've got a turn to react. And if you haven't got yourself in the right balance and so forth, you better pray your guys over there can hold off long enough for you to do something in return. And so, Frank Chadwick was basically the guy who sort of introduced me to the idea of it's hard to have too much movement or too much movement speed. Again, my guys are running around the back of the wood. It shouldn't take me 3 turns to run around the back of the wood, because by that time your guys will run around the house and be waiting for them. It should be a turn later. My guys are just turned up around the wood. You didn't see it happen. It's all done now.
It's all transparent to you.
Yeah. Your turn to react, and then you know what they're going to do next.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Well, good. We've been talking for almost 2 hours now, which is excellent because that means that we've had a lot of good things to talk about the game and game design and various rabbit holes we've jumped down. But you've already told us, where we can find this all. Angels16.com, and I always spell it out because that's the way I can get it right. Although I risk ending up at the wrong kind of sites if I do it that way. But you can go there and find the blog.
I know your audience probably know this, but some of them might not. Angels, height in thousands of feet, 16. Angels 16 is just simply 16,000 feet. So when you're told there are bandits, Angels 16, yep.
That's where they are, 16,000. Yeah, so I did laugh. You even have a glossary in there for people who may not know all the terms that are being thrown out in the game and being specific about, let's say what weapon means. Weapon means these variety of things and all the different terms. So that was quite helpful there. But you can find the game there. You can find print and play stuff to support the basic rules and to get yourself figured out. And so once again, you honestly can go through with just about any set of miniatures you want. There's octagonal bases available in a variety of places. So if someone has to figure something out on their end, they can either print the base, stick it on some cardboard, do whatever.
Put a dice on it for height. It will get you playing.
It'll get you playing. Exactly. So if people want to go try these, go out there, take a look at it and give Phil some feedback. Cause I know you've been running events, over, in New Zealand. I think you did a couple in Australia, and a couple conventions over there, but we'll drag you to the US eventually. So we can get our grubby little fingers on
this year because of the sheer time and money it takes to get over there. And there's too much going on, unfortunately. But I will be over probably next year to run some events and some of the cons.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, keep us informed and we'll happily show up and stand around and watch people and then get a couple rounds in ourselves.
Cool. Look forward to meeting you in person.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. It's been good to have you on, and we're looking forward to seeing what you're going to do next.
Great. Been good to see you and glad to be on your podcast. Have a great evening.